Hi everybody, welcome to my movie channel here today. Today, I'm actually here and really excited to talk about Marvel here today. I love talking about Marvel here today because it's fun to interact with a lot of superheroes and supervillains. So, for today, for Butch Video Reviews, we are going to continue on with the MCU Rewritten story project by Butch Video Reviews, and this is my own version of my heroes and villains. So, for the brief moment what happened at the end of my first adventure story, because in that one it was including Dracula, the main threat for Phase One, but in Phase Two it's a team up. Basically, we have Doctor Strange and Blade teaming up to stop Dracula, but they're both all in the Dark Dimension to stop them to take over the world itself, because we have Dracula and Dormammu, the biggest threat for Doctor Strange in the Dark Dimension. So somehow in the story, it has more involvement with Dormammu because he's would be the major threat of this series. But overall, like with the story, we it's gonna be more involvement with Dormammu wants to take the Dark Dimension to the weird world itself. But somehow Doctor Strange and Blade stopped them together, and somehow Dormammu was defeated. And after that movie ended with my own story, they went back to the world itself, back on Earth, back in Sactum Sancto, and everything was fine. And that's how this movie will be a build up to the Avengers movie. But overall, I think that was a good story to continue on in Phase Two. But after that offense, we can have a Thor story arc. Yes, why not bring Thor into the mix in Phase 2? Because in the MCU, they introduced him in the first um, Phase 1. But for my version, Phase 2. For my version of Thor itself, we're still going to have Chris Hemsworth, because honestly, I love him. Great actor. And the major threat of this story will be the Frost Giants and Lavi. I think for this version, it will be even more darker than the original movie itself. Like, have Lavi and the Frost Giants took over New York City, and Thor has to come down to stop them and are together, like make him more like a Thor Asgardian threat. Like seeing Lavi and his Frost Giants went on Earth to freeze over New York, but Thor came in to stop them and defeated Lavi and the Frost Giants, and they flee back to their own space, back to their own world itself. And that's how we introduced Thor in that movie. And I thought that would be like a kind of cool looking story to see how you see Lavi took over New York with the Frost Giants, to see Thor come in, try to stop him with his hammer, Mjolnir, boom, and they're all been defeated. So after that story of Thor, we're going back to a really insane story because I really love to see this. Wolverine versus the Hulk story arc. For this story, we can have a villain, and this one like more like a ground-based villain. But for this story, we introduced the Hulk, aka Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner was doing an experiment on the gamma radiation in Canada, and somehow Wolverine smells what's going on. So somehow he went to stop Bruce Banner to turn into the Hulk, but somehow the Hulk came out, and Hulk and Wolverine fought each other to the death, and somehow they landed in New York. And somehow the Juggernaut came out and said, "I'm gonna, you know, defeat the Wolverine and the Hulk." But somehow, in the end, they both team up to stop the Hulk, to stop Juggernaut, and that's how the movie I would love to see in my own story, to see Wolverine fighting the Hulk. It somehow landed in New York, and they fought Juggernaut for the small villain. And I thought it would be like a cool looking story to see, because Juggernaut is a mutant of the Brotherhoods, of the villains with Magneto. A hint that X-Men looks in my MCU. For after that one, we're gonna have a Spider-Man to continue the story for his story arc. We're gonna have a trilogy with Spider-Man, and for my own version. For this one, the main villain is Taskmaster, was hired by Kingpin. Oh yes, we have Kingpin involved with hiring the Taskmaster to stop Spider-Man, to find out who is trying to take over the city because Kingpin is the king of the city and somehow of Hell's Kitchen. And somehow Taskmaster came out to stop Spider-Man. It's more like Taskmaster is trying to train Spider-Man to get stronger and powerful to stop Kingpin later on in Phase 3 or even further on in Phase 4. I think that could be like a cool looking story, like to see Spider-Man taking on Taskmaster. And even though after this movie, my own story will end, it will introduce Hawkeye later on into the next saga in Phase 3. So we glimpse of Hawkeye at the post-credit scene of the Spider-Man story with this one. And overall, I think this could be like a cool looking story. And for the next one, we have Captain America and introducing Black Panther. For this story, it's gonna be insane. It has the main two villains, Useless Claw and Red Skull. Red Skull is the main antagonist villain for this story. But somehow Useless Claw was hired by Red Skull. Because in this story, we actually discover Wakanda. Somehow, since Captain America, as we know, Bucky Barnes, went to Wakanda to tell what's going on in Wakanda. And somehow it is basically Red Skull wants to take out the Vibranium for himself, for his own team, that he's actually recruiting his villains. But somehow, with this title, I actually got the good title, is Captain America Hydra Society. And that'd be like more of a good story to see expand Hydra further into the MCU for my version. But with the main, to end the Phase 2, this is going to be the most insane movie. It is actually, the title is actually Avengers Dark Dimension. And this is going to be more involving with Dormammu. Since out of the main story of Doctor Strange and Blade take on Dormammu, but somehow Dormammu in this Avenger movie, with his mindless ones, he's even more powerful than before. He's even stronger, but somehow all the heroes, we have, because of Spider-Man, Black Panther, every hero we introduced already has to stop the mindless ones and Dormammu. Dormammu cannot be defeated. So in this story, Dormammu got defeated in this story, but we hints of more heroes coming. So for post credit scene with more heroes to come and end credit scene, Dormammu is still looking in the dark dimension. So you gotta wait for Phase 3, what is going to happen next. Even though we have new heroes coming in Phase 3, so stay tuned for the next one. And yet this was a fun one and yet excited. But even though, thank you for hanging out with Brett's video reviews. If you guys enjoy what I'm talking about here, let me know in the comments what do you guys think of my own MCU version of my heroes and villains. But thank you for hanging out today. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, right down over here. If you want to be notified about my videos, hit that notification bell icon as well. Bye everyone.